Good afternoon. In a few moments, we will begin the white coat ceremony for the class of 2026 of Florida Atlantic University's Charles E. Schmidt College of Medicine. As we prepare to welcome our medical students, we'd like to emphasize how much we all want to make this important occasion an orderly ceremony and ensure that all students receive the recognition they have earned. To that end, would you please now silence all cell phones and mobile devices that could mar the dignity of the ceremony. We are required by Florida law to advise you to take note of the nearest fire exit where you should proceed in the event of an emergency. A professional photographer will take pictures of each student as they are cloaked. The fire marshal requires that we keep all aisles clear, so we must ask you not to leave your seat to take individual pictures. Thank you in advance for your cooperation.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the White Coat Ceremony for the class of 2026 for Florida Atlantic University's Charles E. Schmidt College of Medicine. As Senior Associate Dean for Student Affairs and Admissions at the College of Medicine, it is my great honor and privilege to serve as the Master of Ceremonies for this very special occasion. Before addressing our class, I would like to take a moment to recognize and acknowledge the many people who have been instrumental to the success of our college, including, and if you're present, please rise to be recognized, our core and affiliate faculty members, our very dedicated staff members, our partner hospitals and their leadership teams, our FAU leadership, including President Kelly, members of the executive leadership team, the FAU Board of Trustees, and FAU College Deans. Our advisory board chair, Dr. Michael Dennis, and all members of our College of Medicine Advisory Board. Members of our state and local government, Ann and John Wood, and of course, Dick and Barbara Schmidt. Thank you all for joining us today. The White Coat Ceremony is a symbolic event that was established in 1993 after a group of distinguished physicians, medical educators, and community leaders formed the Arnold P. Gold Foundation. The foundation concluded that the beginning of a student's journey into medicine is the best time to influence standards to professionalism, humanistic values, and behavior. More than 140 medical schools in the United States hold a white coat ceremony, and we are thrilled to have you here today to celebrate our 12th ceremony. At this time, I would like to ask the audience to please stand as we welcome our new and talented medical students who have worked so very hard to be here today. This truly marks a significant milestone in your journey. Welcome, class of 2026. You may all be seated. Thank you. At this time, it is my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Julie Politzis. Our, oh, hold on, no, there's a long intro for you, Dr. Yes. She's quite amazing, as you'll find out if you don't already know. She is the Dean of the FAU, Schmidt College of Medicine at Florida Atlantic University, and also the Vice President of Medical Affairs for Florida Atlantic University. Dr. Politzis received her MD with distinction from Albany Medical College and received her PhD in physiology from Wayne State University, where she also completed her neurosurgery residency. She then went on to pursue a fellowship in functional neurosurgery at Rush University Medical Center in Chicago. Prior to joining FAU, Dr. Politzis served as Division Chief of Functional Neurosurgery and Chair and Professor of the Basic Neuroscience Department at Albany Medical College. During her tenure, she made astounding national advancements in medicine, education, advocacy, and research. As Division Chief of Functional Neurosurgery, Dr. Politzis successfully developed the service line of functional neurosurgery, a subspecialty of neurosurgery aimed at improving quality of life, which includes multidisciplinary pain and movement disorder teams. Funded by the National Institutes of Health for more than a decade, Dr. Politzis served as principal investigator on several grants exceeding $7 million. She has received more than $2.5 million in grant funding from industry partners and holds several patents. We are honored and fortunate to have her as our dean. Please welcome her to the podium.
Thank you, Dr. Caceres, and welcome, class of 2026. I want you to know that the greater community is behind you and cheering for you 100%. Please join me in expressing our deep appreciation to our dedicated and generous donors who have been supporting White Coats for Care initiatives which fund scholarships and resources for our medical students. You'll see on the screen slides which thank our host committee and those who have sponsored White Coats. In particular, our heartfelt gratitude for Bonnie and John Kay for generously cheering this committee for the past 12 years. This year has been our record-breaking year with donations for White Coats and new donors totaling $1,027,300. We continue to be thrilled to welcome members to our White Coat Society who make multi-year pledges to support one student for all 4 years of medical school. We are pleased to announce 4 new members of the White Coat Society: Thomas E. Scott and Constance Scott, Diane Frank, Bonnie Halpern, and Marjorie and Maurice Plow. And thank you again to a record number of lobby tribute donors this year. And a heartfelt thank you to the memorial gifts for 2 physicians who represent the heart and soul of our community. Dr. Michael Friedland, Carol, thank you for being here, and Dr. Ira Gelb. June, I know you and Maurice are watching via live stream, so we are thinking of you and our hearts are with you. Included in our record-setting amount is an extraordinary cash pledge of $800,000, supporting 20 incoming medical students of the class of 2026 from Ann and John Wood. The Woods and students were able to meet for a few moments before the start of this ceremony. Just a few short months ago, Ann and John made a truly transformational gift, the largest scholarship donation in FAU history. This estate bequest of $28 million will jumpstart our initiative to Doctors Without Debt. As you can see, we truly are of the community for the community. In addition, to help welcome you to our community, Palm Beach Medical Society and Medical Service Boards has generously donated new stethoscopes to each class member of 2026. Along with the white coat, the stethoscope is one of the most enduring symbols of the medical profession, and we will be honored to hand them out to you today. Congratulations again, class of 2026, and welcome to all your family and friends. It is my great pleasure to now read remarks from Dr. Michael Dennis. Unfortunately, Dr. Dennis could not be here today. He's having a family emergency. He is the current president of the Palm Beach Medical Society and has been with the Schmidt College of Medicine since its start. You can't wait to meet him. His enthusiasm and support for our College of Medicine is just remarkable. He says, FAU College of Medicine continues to demonstrate the finest qualities of academic leadership, educational excellence, intense concern for the best medical care available, and unlimited support for you all. Dear class of 2026, you are blessed with a superb administration and faculty that will provide you a great repertoire of knowledge about the intricacies of the human body and mind. I fervently pray that you will be allowed to maintain the treasured doctor-patient relationships which are critical for success and happiness. Your wellness and comfort in medicine during your coming careers is an extremely important concern here at the college, and we are committed to giving you every tool to succeed. I have had the humbling privilege of serving as chair of the school's advisory board, he writes, whose dedicated mission is to provide funding for the college so that no fully qualified student who is accepted will be denied access because of monetary restrictions. This incoming class is a perfect example of the high quality of applicants, and we wish to facilitate your education. As president of Palm Beach Medical Society, I'm very proud of the close relationship between the school and the Medical Society. Years ago, I brought up the idea of purchasing stethoscopes, and I'm happy that we are continuing to do this. In addition, he has personally contributed membership dues to all of you for your 4 years in the Medical Society. With the great many challenges facing healthcare today, there is a great need for the next generation of physicians to be community-minded and socially conscious, in addition to being experts in the practice of medicine. Our focus must always remain on the patient. I hope that you will choose residencies within our superb consortium of partners, and if you do go outside our region, we will welcome you back because you'll always be part of our family. On behalf of Dr. Dennis and all of us, a huge welcome to the class of 2026.
Thank you, Dean Politzis, and thank you, Dr. Dennis, if you're watching us today. I now have the great pleasure to introduce my very good friend and colleague, Dr. Samar Fahmy. Dr. Samar Fahmy joined Boca Raton Regional Hospital in 2015 and currently serves as Vice President and Chief Medical Officer after serving for 5 years as Chief Medical Information Officer and Associate Program Director of the FAU Internal Medicine Residency Program. Prior to joining Boca Raton Regional Hospital, he was the Medical Director of Informatics for HCA's East Florida Division, overseeing 13 hospitals' electronic systems while teaching residents full-time at the University of Miami Palm Beach Internal Medicine Residency Program at JFK Hospital. Dr. Fahmy has focused his career on medical education and electronic clinical systems, leading several South Florida hospitals in conversions to electronic health records, while maintaining focus on improvement in quality of healthcare. Dr. Fahmy helped lead the COVID response for Boca Raton Regional Hospital and Baptist Health South Florida. Dr. Fahmy is double board certified in internal medicine as well as clinical informatics. He's an affiliate clinical associate professor and the associate clinical dean for academic affairs at FAU Atlantic University Schmidt College of Medicine. He is certified in clinical ethics and chairs the ethics committee at Boca Raton Regional Hospital. Please welcome Dr. Fahmy.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Caceres, Dean Politzis, distinguished faculty that's in the crowd today, and again, welcome to the students in the class of 2026. It's an honor to be here to speak to you. I speak to a group of aspiring young physicians today. Dr. Caceres actually asked me to speak last year at this ceremony, and at the time I was still in a state of shock because I had just found out that my wife was giving birth to our third son. Which was a decade after my second son. But I'm fully recovered and couldn't be happier and couldn't imagine my life without the little guy now. So as a parent, there's nothing that would bring more joy to my heart than to see all three of my boys sitting where you guys are sitting today. It really is a tremendous accomplishment that you've made it this far, and the next 4 years are definitely going to be a spectacular journey for you. You are joining the most prestigious profession, and this is just the beginning. So I want to take some time today and speak to you all about this journey on which you're embarking, and specifically about some of the key qualities that I've seen in my 15 years in medical education and clinical practice lead students like you to success in our field. But I also want you to understand the commitment that you're making, the responsibility that you're agreeing to bear. You're joining the most noble and respected profession. There's a trust that this white coat earns you, and when you don it, you should have a healthy respect for that. For the next 4 years of your life, you will have the privilege of learning at a world-class institution. As much as you can possibly retain about this fascinating and complex field of human biology and pathology will be presented to you. Of course, just getting here is an accomplishment, and a sizable one. Be proud of it, savor the experiences over the next years that you're about to turn into memories. Remember, for many groups in the United States, reaching the goal of becoming a physician was not always an easy or an even available path. Looking at the student body here today, it makes me even more proud that we have such a diverse class of students. It was not always this way in our country. How many in the audience know the names Emily or Elizabeth Blackwell? Ooh, I see a few hands. Perfect. So I'll tell this story real quick because I've always been fascinated by it. I'm a bit of a history buff. But Elizabeth Blackwell was born in 1821 and died in 1910. That was only a few years before my grandmother was born. So all in all, not really that long ago. Emily, her younger sister, was born just a couple of years later. They were born in a well-to-do, prosperous, cultured family in Bristol, England. Elizabeth was the oldest of 9 siblings. Emily was the second oldest. Their father, Sam Blackwell, was a sugar farmer, as most people in Bristol, England were back then. It was known for sugar farming. He was a good man. He immigrated to the United States with his family and moved the family to New York when Elizabeth was 11 years old. He was a staunch activist in the abolitionist movement, trying to put an end to slavery. Unfortunately, Samuel Blackwell died when Elizabeth was just 17, and her family descended into poverty. They couldn't find their next meal. She felt helpless in his illness. She dreamt of becoming a physician. She started asking for private lessons from local doctors that she met during that episode with her father. But overall, she was a bit disappointed in the type of treatment and care that was offered to him. You see, medicine at the time is not what it is today, was not what it is today. There was no evidence-based medicine. There was no FDA oversight for safety. Drugs like cocaine were being used for toothaches and sore throats. Arsenic and mercury were used for treatment of syphilis. Leeches and bloodletting were common treatments, and amputations were the norm for treating injuries of the lower legs and infections of the legs. The Blackwells wanted to make that better. But most relevant to Emily and Elizabeth, it was an all-male profession. At the time, no women were allowed to attend medical school. It was shameful for a woman to even suggest it. Elizabeth didn't let that stop her. In 1847, she did apply for medical schools around the US and in England. All the leading medical schools rejected her. After a couple of years of trying, she was shocked to hear that she actually got accepted into Geneva Medical College in New York. Little did she know that it was partly due to an elaborate prank that the student body was trying to play and accepted her, never actually expecting her to show up and attend classes. But she did. She persisted, she attended, she got her degree. She became the first woman to graduate medical school in America's history. She graduated top of her class. But she didn't stop there. Elizabeth Blackwell was thirsty for knowledge. She had a dream of becoming a surgeon, but unfortunately she did some studying abroad at La Meridienne in France at an STD clinic, and got a terrible eye infection that caused her to lose sight in one eye. Now we understand that maybe, or probably, that was a gonorrheal infection from treating her patients. Again, she did not let that stop her. She went on to open New York Infirmary for women and children, treating thousands of women and children across New York. She and her younger sister Emily, who followed in her footsteps into medical school, also opened the first women's college to educate women and girls on women's health. By 1899, they had graduated 364 women, physicians. Elizabeth even traveled to England and worked with Dr. James Paget. I'm sure you'll hear that name again. He identified Paget's disease of the bone and Paget's physical exam sign for breast cancer. Fast forward to 2017, and for the first time, women outnumbered men as medical students in their first year. But why do I tell you the story of Emily or Elizabeth Blackwell, these two successful trailblazers? Other than their drive for equality and women's rights and paving the road for many women that came after them, it's because they had certain qualities that led to those to that success. And those qualities to this day results in students or residents excelling in the field of medicine. They had the ambition to set lofty goals, the perseverance to pursue those goals despite repeated setbacks, and determination to chase their dreams with grit. You haven't had it as hard as the Blackwells, and that's a testament to the progress that our society's made in the last 150 years. But you still need that grit and that perseverance to excel in medicine. Honestly, more than ever, you need it to survive in medicine and avoid burnout, which is at its highest rates ever amongst clinicians now. At FAU, you will receive a first-class education. I know many of the faculty and the physicians that will be teaching you, and I can promise you that you will be afforded all the tools to become successful. But to last, to thrive, to avoid burnout, and to excel, you'll need a bit of grit. See, grit means having that passion and perseverance to not stop pursuing your long-term goals despite repeated setbacks. It means understanding that the occasional failure actually makes you stronger. It makes you better. If the attending asks you a question on rounds or in class and you don't know the answer, how will you respond? Worse, what if you actually know the answer, you think you know the answer, but you're dead wrong? How will you respond? Will you go back and hit the books and try to learn anything and everything about that topic that you can find and come back the next day and show that you learned that? Or will you sulk, shut down, get sad, get anxious, overthink it? No product on the market today has reached perfection without going through several iterations and prototypes. You will change. You will evolve into a professional, and those setbacks that you experience along the way will help you get there if you persevere. What you're embarking upon in the next few years is not easy. It will challenge you psychologically, emotionally, and physically, with long hours, roller coasters of emotions, and maybe even some self-doubt along the way. Set goals for yourself, short-term and long-term. Then go for it. Don't let that doubt slip in, and don't let anything derail your vision. See, grit is important because it's the drivement of achievement and success, independent and beyond what talent and intelligence contribute. You wouldn't be sitting here today if you didn't have the talent and intelligence. The link between intelligence, as in IQ, and career success or achievements is actually well defined in the literature. But not all intelligent people reach their potential. The renowned psychologist Angela Duckworth measured grit in a 12-question survey on West Point cadets back in 2007 and found that there was a stronger correlation with grit than with intelligence in terms of career success. The questions in the survey were things like whether you have difficulty maintaining focus for long projects, or how diligent are you, or whether you typically finish a task that you embarked upon or started. I tell you this because residency program directors already know this, and they actually try to identify candidates that are grittier, that have grittier qualities. But more than that, it's because intelligence is mostly a genetic, God-given ability that somebody has, and it's really difficult to change. You can't change it very much. But grit is something you can change. You can change that. Like any muscle in your body, you can work on it, you can make it stronger, and you can get better. You can become grittier if you clarify your goals, discover your true interests, know your purpose, and practice a bit of optimistic self-talk. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right. Our most successful doctors and nurses in the hospital are gritty. Nowhere did that become more apparent than over the last couple of years, over the first year specifically of the COVID-19 pandemic. See, COVID now is not what it was back in 2020 when we first faced it. It has steadily become less virulent as it has mutated. But as the chief medical officer of one of the busiest hospitals in Palm Beach County in 2020, I can tell you that was the most challenging, the most difficult year of my life. And for many of the men and women that were with me in the hospital throughout the last couple of years, they can say the same. Roll the clock back for a few minutes to March of 2020 when the first COVID patient walked into my hospital. It was March 11th, remember the day clearly. High fevers, pneumonias in both lungs, terrible cough, he couldn't catch his breath. Oxygen levels were way down. We knew this was coming. We heard about it from people that we spoke with in Italy because they got hit first, and in Oregon and in Washington because they got hit before us. Imagine being that emergency department doctor that had to see that first patient, knowing full well this virus was killing people around the world. I know that doctor well. He's a friend and a colleague. Imagine being that first nurse that had to start the IV on that patient, or the ICU doctor that came down to intubate him. That ICU doctor sat in my office after that intubation, and we were both nervous and frightened. Imagine that environmental services staff member that had to clean that room and change that patient's sheets every day. This is a virus we knew very little about at the time, and when the whole world was locked down and staying in their houses, those people were in the hospital working longer hours than ever before. When we first met these patients, we didn't know much. We thought the early intubation strategy is really the best. Let's get people on a ventilator quickly so you can help reduce their work of breathing and they don't get so tired. And that's the advice we were given from places that had seen patients before us. Little did we know that it made things worse, not better. Patients would live for weeks on the ventilator in the ICU and then deteriorate suddenly and die weeks after. We had no drugs and no effective therapies at the time. COVID testing took 3 or 4 weeks to come back, so anyone that came into the hospital with a bit of a breathing problem or a cough was in isolation, eating up even more of our very limited supplies. At one point in this pandemic, we had 150 COVID patients in my hospital out of just 320 beds that were available. Every other room that you went to had somebody coughing, somebody having a hard time catching their breath. So limited supplies of things like masks and gowns were on our mind. Imagine being the respiratory therapist that walked into the patient's room to deliver high-pressured oxygen into patients' lungs, knowing full well that when you do that, you aerosolize viral particles throughout the room. And questioning every minute whether your personal protective equipment will hold up against this airborne virus. Or the hospitalist physician that saw dozens of COVID patients in a single shift at the height of the pandemic, walking into the fire room after room. Then at the end, getting into their car, going home to family, hugging his kids, sleeping next to the spouse, wondering if you're breathing a deadly virus into your own home. Imagine the unknowns and How contagious is it? Will I get sick? Will my family catch it? Am I treating my patients the right way? Do I have enough PPE? If I extend the use of my mask for just one more day, will it hold up? Those are the questions that were on all our minds. But a few things really stand out from that whole experience that really impacted us as a team as being the most challenging. One was obviously delivering bad news. Over 370 families had to hear bad news about their loved ones that didn't make it because of this virus in our hospital alone over a 2-year period. Lots of grief counseling for our staff, patients, families, pastoral care was very busy. That's never easy and requires a degree of humanity and humility that I'm sure you'll understand and appreciate more as you go through your education and training. But it's the isolation. The isolation of people for weeks on end was heartbreaking. The not being able to be in contact with family and friends during their most vulnerable time, their sickest time, that was heartbreaking. It was traumatic not just for the patient, but for all of us watching, and we did our best to fix it. Another difficult experience was getting together a scarce resource allocation team, making policies on issues like if we're down to our last ventilator, who gets it? Or remdesivir was in short supply and it was the only available treatment at the time that we thought could be effective. Who's going to get it because we had a limited supply from the government? And how do you explain it to the people that don't get it? When oxygen supply was running low, and most hospitals experienced that during the height of the pandemic, our storage tanks just weren't large enough to store more than 1 day's storage of oxygen. We had to keep refilling it every other day. Who gets the high flow oxygen? Who gets less? How do you explain that to a patient or their family? See, no doctor should ever be put in a position to have to choose one of their patients to get a treatment over another. The stress, trauma, and psychological impact from these experiences will be felt throughout our healthcare system for years to come. But those that came out stronger on the other side were those that knew how to persevere. Those grittier doctors, the ones that have been through the battles and made it. Becker's Review put out an article just last February saying 1 in 5 healthcare workers since the onset of the pandemic have left the field altogether. If you don't realize it, we're currently in the midst of a critical nursing shortage, and studies are showing that it's not going to resolve until about 2030. Too many people over the last 2 years have burnt out and have left medicine. It took grit and it took perseverance for our teams to get through it. And that's the skill that you can develop, that you can work on during your education, during your training. And in fact, during your career as a physician, you need it. It's what's going to help you to avoid burnout in the next several years. Set a goal for yourself. Work towards it. But always keep in mind that what distinguishes our profession from any other one is the humanity that you have to display and the trust that people put in you when you wear that white coat. The stronger you are, the more you can be there for your patients, their loved ones, to comfort them, console them, or celebrate with them the wins. Teddy Roosevelt said something that stuck with me. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Nowhere is that truer than a career practicing medicine. So with that, I want to thank you all for allowing me a few minutes to speak to you today. I know today you'll be taking the Hippocratic Oath, so I'll leave you with a quote from Hippocrates that stuck with me also. I heard it over 20 years ago. He said, "Cure sometimes, treat often, and comfort always." Welcome again to our new students, and I'll be waiting for you across the street at Boca Regional Hospital when you're ready. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Fahmy. Your very pertinent and moving remarks, I'm sure, have left this new class with many things to think about and consider as they embark in this really important journey. Incoming class of 2026, you are beginning your journey to follow in the footsteps of many selfless physicians, as was described particularly by Dr. Fahmy, and many others who have served humanity in countless ways. We are now ready to welcome each of our 72 students to the medical profession and officially cloak them with their first doctor's white coat. These students, which Dr. Fahmy will be happy to know, are represented by 2 societies. The first society is the Dr. Elizabeth Blackwell Society, led by me, and the Charles Drew Society, led by Dr. Elizabeth Gunderson, Assistant Dean for Student Affairs. Several years ago, our second and third year medical students named these societies Elizabeth Blackwell and Charles Drew because these pioneering physicians represent an ideal in medicine and service to humanity. These academic societies serve as the organizational framework for each student's experience at the Charles E. Schmidt College of Medicine and are supervised by their own faculty members and administrative staff. As part of our ceremony this afternoon, our second-year medical students, the class of 2025, have assigned themselves to members of our incoming class and will serve as mentors, providing sage advice, support, and guidance that are critical during the first year of medical school. As a symbol of this pairing, the 72 students receiving their white coats today will also be pinned with a Humanism in Medicine lapel pin. These pins have been generously provided to us by the Arnold P. Gold Foundation. Before we get started, I would like to invite the following individuals to join me on stage. Dr. Julie Politzis, our College of Medicine Dean, Dr. Sarah Wood, our College of Medicine Senior Associate Dean for Medical Education, Dr. Elizabeth Gunderson, our Assistant Dean for Student Affairs, Monica Lopez, our Director for Admissions, that I know our class knows very well, and Sandy Sigmund, our Student Affairs Specialist. We will begin with the members of Dr. Charles Drew Society. Before we call our students to the stage, I would first like to invite our M2 student, leader, president of the class, Keshe Alford, to the podium. She will provide a brief overview as to why the students selected Dr. Drew to represent one of our two societies.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Keshe Alford, and I am a member of the Charles Drew Society here at FAU Charles E. Schmidt College of Medicine. Dr. Charles Drew was a pioneer in the medical field. As an African American, Dr. Drew overcame numerous roadblocks, setting a working example of the progress that could be made in the medical field and also in society. Dr. Drew earned his medical degree at McGill School of Medicine. After graduating, Dr. Drew joined the faculty at Howard University College of Medicine, eventually becoming the chief surgical resident at Freedman's Hospital. While working further towards a doctorate in medical science at Columbia University and being one of the first African Americans to receive such an honor, Dr. Drew flew under the wings of prominent physicians Edward Lee Howard and Alan Whipple. Dr. Drew established his place in the research of treating shock, fluid balance, blood chemistry and preservation, and transfusion. With this, he was able to open an experimental blood bank at New York Presbyterian, founded on the ability for blood to be processed, preserved, and transported for longer periods of time. In September of 1940, Dr. Drew was called to direct the Blood for Britain project to assist Great Britain in World War II. He collected donations of blood from almost 15,000 people, saving thousands of lives of both military personnel and civilians. Dr. Drew unified the procedures and standards for collecting and processing blood plasma. While performing this amazing feat, Dr. Drew also became the first African American appointed as examiner for the American Board of Surgery. With the end of the Blood for Britain in January of 1941, Dr. Drew was appointed assistant director of a pilot for the National Blood Banking System, ultimately leading to the creation of the American Red Cross Blood Bank. Following the war, Dr. Drew sought to raise the standards for Black medical education and embrace Black physicians in the medical sphere. He devoted himself to training and mentoring medical students and surgical residents upon his return to Howard University and Freedman's Hospital as chair of the Department of Surgery and chief of surgery. As Dr. Charles Drew once said, So much of our energy is spent in overcoming the constricting environment in which we live, that little energy is left for creating new ideas or things. It should be the aim of every student in science to knock down at least 1 or 2 bricks of this wall by virtue of his or her own accomplishment. I hope that as new members of the Charles Drew Society, you will continue his legacy as diligent and compassionate doctors, especially in the face of opposition. Thank you.
Thank you, Cache. Students, these coats symbolize your entry into the medical profession and your commitment to uphold the highest ethical and professional standards. This white coat is the uniform of the healer, and you will slip your arms into the sleeves and tuck its fabric over your shoulders. As you wait for your name to be called, you may wonder how you'll look in your new white coat as you walk across one of the world's greatest stages. The sleeves may be too long, the shoulders too broad, but there is more and more important question to ponder. How will you measure up when you put on the coat every single day moving forward? So let's get started. As your name is called, please come onto the stage to your right and then exit the stage to your left. Audience, please hold your applause until the robing is complete, and for safety reasons, please keep the aisles clear while the students are processing. Thank you. Jacob Abalencia. Catherine Anderson. Congratulations. Rishiraj Bandi. Lindsay Bean. Kyler Brinton. Michael Brown. Essen Bullitt. Sarah Bergoa. Soo Jung Choi. Gage Collimore. Sophia Drawn. Meghana Dumpa. Stephen Farragala. Taylor Fistel. Phoebe Gallagher. Shannon Gallup. Mia Glickman. Brandon Hegley. Olivia Hooks. Vama Jumkawala. Sophie Kelly. Preet Kumar. Benjamin Lack. Nico Linzer. Pranav Meka. Yash Nagpal. Jonathan Patak. Taylor Rakauskas. Our next student is unable to be with us today, Vineet Reddy. If we could just give him a round of applause if he's watching from home. Gabriel Scharf. Abigail Schranz. Joshua Silmer. Thomas Swickley. Madison Tharp. Justin Shia. Yasmin Zaruki. Congratulations, members of the Dr. Charles Drew Society. Dr. Gunderson and I will now exchange places as we get ready to cloak the members of the Blackwell Society.
Good afternoon. I'm honored to be here today with all of you and to be a part of this very special ceremony. At this time, I would like to invite Cameron Marshall to join me at the podium so that she can provide a brief overview of why our students were inspired to select Dr. Elizabeth Blackwell to represent one of our two societies.
Hi, my name is Cameron Marshall. So now, please raise your hand if you've heard of Dr. Elizabeth Blackwell. Come on, all of you should have your hands up. Dr. Fahmy gave an incredible speech, but I'm just going to give you a little bit more about who Dr. Blackwell was. At the beginning of her medical career, there were many who doubted her abilities. During her time in medical school, she managed to earn not just the respect of her peers and professors, but she also inspired those around her to hold themselves to a higher standard. She graduated at the top of her medical class in 1849 and became the first woman to earn a medical degree from an American medical school. After graduating, Dr. Blackwell moved to Europe to gain practical experience studying midwifery in London and Paris before returning to the United States 2 years later. Soon after she returned, she opened an infirmary for women and children, which she later expanded to also serve as a nurse's training facility with the help of her younger sister, Dr. Emily Blackwell. In 1869, Dr. Blackwell returned to London to help establish and then teach at the London School of Medicine for Women, where she spent the rest of her medical career. This further accentuates her legacy of not only being the first female doctor in the United States and in Britain, but also making sure that many would be able to follow in her footsteps. It is for this reason that she was chosen to be the name of one of our societies here at the Charles E. Schmidt College of Medicine. Much like this society's namesake, our college believes that not gender, but traits such as professionalism, leadership, and compassion are what determine whether or not someone makes a great doctor, and that a career in medicine is something that should be an equal opportunity for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Cameron. We will now continue our white coat ceremony with the cloaking of the members of the Dr. Elizabeth Blackwell Society. Students, as your names are called, please come onto the stage at your right and exit the stage to your left. Audience, as a reminder, please hold your applause until the robing is complete, and for safety reasons, please keep the aisles clear while the students are processing. Thank you. Shaima Arshad. Julianne Baker. Brian Brandstetter. Ritesh Chandrasekharan. Justin Childers. Alan Cleland Goddard. Casey Craig. Elizabeth Crump. Sebastian Densley. Emma Ing. Michelle Falive. Jessica Forbes. Maria Magdi Gergis. Jake Gogan. Christopher Half. Jordan Jones. Ashley Lee. Diana Lobina. Catherine Lotharius. Karishma Lukos. Aday Marciniak. Ryan Moeller. David Montoya. Elijah Muthaden. Edwin Mahawasi. Bella Christina Opio. Goodness Okwahaji. Mira Rao. Amit Sagar. Kristen Simpson. Aiden Snell. Stacy Tevelev. William Tu. Julio Bandama. Varteter Rosemary Vardanyan. Christopher Young. Please join me in officially welcoming the Schmidt College of Medicine class of 2026 to the medical community. Thank you, Dr. Politsis and Dr. Wood. You are welcome to return to your seats. According to the Gold Foundation that founded the White Coat Ceremony, the most important part of the ceremony is the oath that students take in front of their peers, families, and community to acknowledge their central obligation of caring for the patient. This week, our students have worked collectively to create their own oath. This is a wrinkle we did not share with Dr. Fahmy. Many students recite the Hippocratic Oath. Our students have worked collectively to create their own oath, thereby putting their unique mark on the profession of medicine. This oath embodies the values and commitments the Schmidt College of Medicine class of 2026 pledged to uphold throughout their education and as physicians. At this time, our students will recite their oath in unison, led by the following representatives who were chosen by their class: Goodness Okwaraji, Benjamin Lack, Mira Rao, Mia Glickman, Rosemary Vardanyan, Kyler Brinton. Will you please join me at the podium to recite the oath that you and your peers have created? Audience, only the students will recite their oath. However, I call your attention to the screens behind me. Students, please rise and turn around to face your family, friends, and community so you may recite your oath.
As the students of the Charles E. Schmidt College of Medicine, class of 2026, we pledge to honor our commitment to our medical education and the implications it has for our futures in the field of medicine.
Look to our mentors and embrace the wisdom of those who came before us while contributing our own unique perspectives. Acknowledge that medicine is an art that demands continual refinement, self-reflection, and a commitment to lifelong learning.
Uplift our peers and maintain a sense of camaraderie. Create open, respectful, and non-judgmental environments to cultivate trust within the patient-physician relationship.
Integrate individual lived experiences into holistic, patient-centered care. Empower patients through education and shared decision-making to foster patient autonomy.
Use our voice to advocate for patients at the individual and community levels to ensure health equity in and beyond the exam room. Maintain self-care while having the courage to be selfless to the patients and communities we serve.
Recognize our humanity through self-forgiveness and acceptance. By embodying these tenets, we will commit ourselves to a life that will bring honor to our profession and, above all, do no harm.
Thank you, and I think we can all agree that the future of medicine in our community is in excellent hands. You may be seated.
Congratulations, class of 2026, and to your family and friends who are here today to share in this momentous occasion with you. The white coats you are wearing today have all been sponsored by very generous members of our community at large and our university community through a special fundraising event, White Coats for Care, co-chaired by Bonnie and John Kay of Kay Communications Incorporated. Vital scholarship funds have also been raised through White Coats for Care. Students, please check inside your right pocket to see who has sponsored your white coat. At the reception following this ceremony, you will have an opportunity to meet many who have given generously to support the class of 2026. Once again, thank you to the Palm Beach County Medical Society for generously donating new stethoscopes to each member of the new class. We are most grateful for the continued support from Dick and Barbara Schmidt and the Schmidt Family Foundation for their vision of a biomedical science program and a medical school here at Florida Atlantic University. And to all of you for your continued support of our students and our college. We would also like to say a special thank you to Dr. Dennis, who couldn't be here with us today, our College of Medicine Advisory Board Chairman, who has supported the creation and growth of the college from the very beginning. Without his vision and support, we would not be here today. We are now ready to conclude our ceremony. Class of 2026, you have received your first doctor's white coat, and you have now been placed in the service of humankind. The years that lay ahead will be filled with hard work and with great reward, because the privilege to have the opportunity to serve humankind will outweigh heavily any of the sacrifices that you may make. Becoming a physician is not simply a job or an occupation, it's a calling. So who you are and who you will become is as important or perhaps even more important than what you know. All along this exciting journey, and I can tell from all the things that you've already written as you were walking across the stage that you recognize the importance of your loved ones and those who have supported you this far. It will be those same people who will lift you up during the upcoming years. So be sure during your really busy schedule to stop along the way and say thank you. And throughout your career, please remember to keep care in healthcare. And what I mean by that is care for your patients, care for your community, care for your loved ones, and of course, care for yourself. Future colleagues, you have chosen the most noble profession, and we are extremely proud of you. We wish you every success in your education, training, and your life as a future physician. On behalf of the Schmidt College of Medicine and Florida Atlantic University, we thank all of our guests today, and especially the students and their families who have attended this very special occasion, bearing witness as our students begin the journey of becoming physicians. Audience, I ask that you please remain seated until our faculty and all the students have exited the auditorium. Thank you for joining us today.